While I was showering at the gym, a little boy stole my towel turban. His mom then started yelling at me and accused me of harassment. This happened a few years ago when I was a new social worker. It was a really rough morning. Long story short, someone had spat and vomited on me. I always keep a change of clothes in my car, so I had something clean to wear. But I felt gross and wanted a shower. I decided to take an early lunch and went to the gym near my office. I showered and put my hair up in a towel turban. When I went back to the lockers, there was just one kid, a boy maybe 8 or 9 years old, hanging around. It seemed weird for him to be alone, but I figured his mom was in the bathroom, so I didn't think much about it. I smiled at him and went to my locker to grab my stuff to change. The boy, let's call him EK, looked at my turban and asked, "What's that?" "Oh, it's a towel turban," I said. "It keeps my hair from getting wet better than a regular towel." "Cool," he said, reaching for my head. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" I asked. "I just want to see it," he replied. "No, I'm using it, sorry," I said. I'm used to kids being a little weird, and it's part of my job to make sure they know how to act right. But I didn't expect this. He looked a little upset, but went back to messing with his mom's phone. I got dressed quickly and grabbed my things. I went over to the mirror to take my turban off and dry my hair. I was flipping my hair around, drying it when I noticed this kid walk over to the mirror, and then just leave. I didn't think anything of it, and finished drying my hair. I turned off the hair dryer and went to grab my turban, but it wasn't there. I knew what happened and whipped around to look at the kid. He was red in the face, staring down at his phone trying to ignore me. "Please return the turban, now," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I'd been spat on, vomited on, and now someone had stolen my towel turban? He kept ignoring me. I repeated, "Please return the turban, now." He was super red and wouldn't look at me. He mumbled something like, "I didn't take it. I'd had enough." I went over to the only bathroom stall and knocked. "Excuse me, is this your son out here?" The door opened, and a woman, let's call her M, looked at me really annoyed. "What?" she asked. "Is this your son?" He took my towel turban. I asked for it back, but he won't give it to me. "Please ask him to hand it back." "I won't tell the gym staff." "What the FCK is a towel turban?" M said. I started to explain, but EK jumped in and said, "It's a hair towel that stays up better than a regular towel." We both looked at him. M said, "Okay. So what do you want?" "I want my towel turban back, please," I said. "Well, he wouldn't just take something. You probably just lost it. You shouldn't go around accusing people because you lose things." "Well," I said, getting annoyed, "he won't mind if I look in his bag. If he has it, he can just give it back. And if I'm wrong, I'll apologize." M looked at EK. It was obvious to anyone that he was lying. But she just said, "Don't be FC King stupid. I'm not letting you rummage through his stuff like he's some kind of thief. Look at you, you're harassing a little boy in a changing room." I took a deep breath to stop myself from rolling my eyes. I said, "I'm not asking to touch anything. I'm asking for you to go through his bag for my turban. That's all. If you're not willing, I will go to the staff and ask them to sort this out. I know it's just a stupid towel turban, but theft is theft, and it's pink and cute, so I'm not letting anyone have it." "So, you're threatening me now?" M asked. I knew she was just trying to start an argument. I walked over to the door, leaned out, and called for someone to come help. A gym trainer, GTD, came in. "What's going on?" he asked. He looked at all three of us. The kid was staring intently at his phone. M stood between GTD and EK. "This crazy BTCH is harassing my son and trying to go through his bag. She needs to be kicked out." "That's not what happened," I interrupted. "Her son took my towel turban, and I'd like it back." I just kept looking at the kid. GTD said, "Okay, so what happened, mate? Did you take the towel?" EK mumbled something about how I must have lost it. M jumped in, "See? He didn't take it. He's so traumatized he can barely say anything." She bent down and hugged EK. She said, "It'll be alright." Then she said to me very dramatically, "I won't let you get away with this." I looked at GTD and explained everything that happened. He said, "Okay, why don't we just check his bag?" EK started crying dramatically. M started ranting about how this was harassment. GTD looked uncomfortable. He said, "That's literally the only way I can solve this." M tried to push past me to get to GTD, but the room was small and I didn't move. She started swearing and thrust the kid's backpack at GTD. "Fine, check it, he hasn't taken it, and when you don't find it, I want her thrown out. You have to apologize and get the manager." EK wailed. GTD obviously found the pink, wet towel turban in the bag. He picked it up and kind of just looked at it. EK wailed even louder, trying to grab it. GTD held it out of his reach. Right, so, this is yours? GTD asked. Yes, thank you, I said. I stuffed the coveted turban towel into my bag and got my car keys and ID lanyard. As I put the lanyard over my head, something clicked in M's head. She yanked EK's arm and snatched the bag back from GTD. I moved out of her way. GTD looked super confused. I explained that M must have been embarrassed that her son had stolen my turban. But I knew she was panicking. She realized I was a social worker. She must have known that her son was skipping school to steal pink, wet towel turbans. Next story. Just had a friend break up over an exclusive party. I met Rose at a bar almost a year ago. We hit it off right away, chatting about our shared love for live music, especially the kind that gets your heart racing and feet tapping. Now, I wouldn't call myself a big shot or anything, but I've been around the block a few times in our city's music scene. Over the years, I've made some good friends and connections, the kind that get you on the guest list or score you tickets at a steal. I've always believed in good karma, so I'm always happy to share the wealth when I can. Free tickets? Sweet deal on a concert? You bet I'm calling up my friends to see who wants in on the fun. It felt good knowing I could help people experience the magic of live music, especially if their wallets were feeling a little thin. That's why I started hanging out with Rose. She was always eager to catch a show and didn't seem to mind that I often had ways to get us in without breaking the bank. In the beginning, I was happy to have a buddy who shared my passion for music. But as time went on, I started to notice a pattern, and it wasn't the kind that played sweet melodies. Rose was a pro at asking for favors, but returning them? Not so much. It was like that old saying, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, except in this case, she was always the one scoring the free tickets. Maybe I was being too nice, too trusting, or maybe I just didn't want to rock the boat. Whatever it was, I kept giving Rose the benefit of the doubt. But those tiny seeds of doubt? They were starting to sprout into a garden of red flags. Like that time she offered to buy me a drink if I got the next round. It seemed like a friendly gesture, but then she went ahead and ordered herself a fancy cocktail when I was just having a regular beer. Now, I'm not one to pinch pennies, and it was only a few bucks difference, but something about it just felt a little off. Like she was taking advantage of my good nature, knowing I wouldn't make a fuss. And then there was the never-ending saga of Rose and her job prospects. It wasn't that she wasn't smart or capable, she had a college degree and could speak multiple languages. In our city, those skills could take you far, but somehow, Rose always ended up getting fired. Every time, she'd have a new dramatic tale to tell. One time she swore she got fired from a cafe for being too slow at making coffee. Later, I found out she'd gone on a weekend trip after working just one shift and then had the audacity to show up at the cafe, expecting free drinks like she owned the place. They showed her the door faster than you could say, decaf latte, and who could blame them? When I gently pointed out that maybe, just maybe, that little stunt had something to do with her getting fired, you know what she said? Really? Yep, really, the kicker? For someone who was constantly moaning about being broke, Rose seemed to find a magical way to afford all sorts of trips and adventures. Maybe she had a secret trust fund she wasn't telling me about, but somehow, I doubted it. But the straw that broke this camel's back, the one that made me realize I needed to cut Rose loose, happened during our city's biggest music festival of the year. Last year, I had been more heavily involved with the festival, and my all-access pass was like a golden ticket to every concert, party, and exclusive event, including a swanky industry bash that had everyone buzzing. I was swimming in guest passes, practically giving them away. Remember how I said I snuck Rose into an event last year when my own pass was being used? Yeah, that was this party. It was loud, it was crowded, and somehow, I managed to convince the bouncer that Rose was with me, even though my pass was already spoken for. This year, my involvement in the festival was a little more low-key. I still had a pass that got me into most events, but it wouldn't get me into the coveted industry party. It stung a little, but hey, life's not always a backstage pass, right? Rose, however, was volunteering at the festival this year, which meant she had her own pass. She surprised me with a ticket to one of the headlining shows to thank me for always being so generous with my concert connections. Honestly, I was this close to telling her I didn't want the ticket. I was that ready to cut the cord on our friendship. But a free show is a free show, and hey, maybe this was a chance for Rose to redeem herself. Yeah, maybe not. The concert itself was incredible. We sang, we danced, we screamed our hearts out. But afterward, as we walked toward the venue where the industry party was taking place, a familiar feeling crept up my spine. That anxious anticipation of knowing I might be left out in the cold. Literally, my pass was a dud. Shocker, I'd steeled myself for this possibility, even dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, Rose would swoop in and save the day. But when I subtly hinted that she could show the bouncer her volunteer pass, her reaction was underwhelming, to say the least. Rose froze, clutching her pass like it was a fragile butterfly wing. She refused point blank, refused to even try talking to the bouncer. I'm not sure if it was shyness, fear, or just plain apathy, but it was like she'd morphed into a human statue, frozen in a pose of utter uselessness. Every fiber of my being screamed in protest. My stomach churned, my cheeks burned with shame, and a wave of nausea washed over me as I watched all those people, my friends, colleagues, and industry bigwigs, sail past the velvet ropes, their laughter muffled by the pulsing bass line. "It's okay, we'll figure something out," Rose said breezily, blissfully unaware of the inner turmoil brewing inside me. "There's always a way," she chirped, patting my arm as if she hadn't just single-handedly shattered my hopes and dreams. Easy for her to say. She wasn't the one who felt like a fly repeatedly smashing against a window pane, desperate to be part of the action but thwarted at every turn. I'd had it. I'd officially reached my breaking point. Without a word, I spun around and walked away. I couldn't even bring myself to look at her. I needed to get out of there, to breathe, to think, to escape the gravitational pull of her astounding lack of awareness. As my feet pounded the pavement, I could feel my anger morphing into a strange sense of relief. The relief that comes with finally ripping off a band-aid you've been nervously picking at for months. Fate, it seemed, was on my side that night. I hadn't wandered far when I bumped into a group of friends, all of whom were just as shocked and appalled by Rose's inaction as I was. When I recounted the whole sorry saga, my voice a mixture of fury and disbelief, one of them reached into her purse and, without missing a beat, pressed her own festival pass into my hand. "Don't worry about her," she said, her voice a reassuring balm on my raw nerves. "Just go have fun, okay? Give that back to me when you see me later. We'll laugh about this tomorrow." And with that, I was in. The party lived up to the hype, of course. It was loud, it was crowded, it was filled with the kind of electric energy that only comes with being surrounded by people who live and breathe music. I chatted with old friends, met some new ones, and danced until my feet ached. But throughout the night, a nagging thought kept creeping into the back of my mind. What about Rosé? I checked my phone, but there was nothing, no texts, no missed calls, no signs of life from the girl who, just hours earlier, had been my constant companion. Maybe she'd gone home, disappointed, but ultimately understanding. Or maybe, and this was the scenario I couldn't shake, she was out there somewhere, painting me as the bad guy, spinning a tale of woe in which I was the villain and she was the victim. The next morning, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Rose. "Hey," it read, "I just wanted to say that I was really sad and disappointed that you didn't even try to get me into the party last night. You just stormed off without even talking to me." I stared at the message, my blood beginning to simmer. It was like she was living in a parallel universe, a reality in which her own actions, or rather, inaction, had played no part in the night's events. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my mind racing. This was it, my chance to finally say what I needed to say, to dismantle the wall of denial she'd built around herself. But then, just as I was about to type out a scathing response, I paused. What was the point? Did it really matter if she understood? Did I need her validation, her approval? I deleted the message and placed my phone on my bedside table, the screen glowing like a beacon in the pre-dawn light. I thought about the endless favors, the one-sided conversations, the ever-present expectation that I would always be there to smooth the way, to open doors, to make everything okay. And then, slowly but surely, a different feeling washed over me, not anger, not sadness, but a deep, unwavering sense of peace. I was done.